Margaret, you need to start packing. Those were the words that made me realize my own home was no longer being treated like my home. Vanessa stood in the middle of my living room with a calm smile. Behind her, a stranger was measuring my walls. Another man was taking photographs. And my son Daniel, the child he had raised in that house, was standing silently near the staircase. He wouldn't even look at me. He stared at the measuring tape. Then he looked at Vanessa. What are they doing? She smiled. Getting the house ready. For what? She folded her arms. To sell. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. You risk selling my house? Vanessa gave me a strange little smile. Our house. Those two words changed everything, because she had just made one enormous mistake. She had forgotten whose name was on the deed. And what she didn't know was that 3 days earlier, he had already met with a lawyer. He had already discovered exactly what he could do. And by the time Vanessa realized her mistake, it was going to be far too late. But before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand how he went from being the woman who owned that house to becoming a guest inside it. My name is Margaret Holt. I'm 63 years old. And for nearly 30 years, that house had been my entire world. My husband Robert and he bought it when our son Daniel was only 5. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't luxurious, but it was ours. Every room carried a memory. The hallway where Daniel took his first steps. The kitchen where Robert made pancakes every Sunday morning. The backyard where Daniel broke his first baseball window. And the living room where Robert and he spent our final Christmas together. When Robert died, the house became painfully quiet. His jacket stayed on the back of the chair. His coffee mug remained in the cupboard. And beside the fireplace sat the old walnut rocking chair he had built with his own hands. That chair became my refuge. Whenever he missed him, he sat there. Sometimes he closed my eyes and imagined he was still beside me. Then Daniel called. His voice sounded desperate. Mom, we need help. He and Vanessa had lost their apartment. They had debts. Their rent had become impossible. And they had my grandson, Oliver. He didn't hesitate. Come home. He thought those 2 words were an act of love. He never imagined they would become the beginning of the biggest mistake of my life. At first, everything was wonderful. Oliver ran through the hallways. Daniel helped me with groceries. Vanessa cooked dinner. The house was alive again. One evening, Daniel looked at me across the kitchen table. Thank you, Mom. He smiled. This is what family is for. He meant every word. Then things started changing. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. That's what made it so easy to ignore it. Control rarely arrives by kicking down the door. Sometimes, it walks in smiling. The first thing Vanessa changed was the guest bedroom. Margaret, can you redecorate it? Of course. He trusted her. When he came home from the community center, he barely recognized the room. The curtains were gone. The old dresser was gone. And my grandmother's lamp was missing. What happened to my things? Vanessa smiled. He donated them. He stared at her. You donated my things? They were old. He looked at Daniel. He shrugged. Mom, they're just things. So he let it go. He shouldn't have. A few weeks later, my dining chairs disappeared. He walked into the dining room and stopped. Where are my chairs? Vanessa didn't even turn around. They didn't match the new look. What new look? She smiled. You will get used to it. He said nothing. Then one afternoon, he came home and noticed something was missing that could never be replaced. Robert's rocking chair. He searched every room. Nothing. Finally, he went into the garage. There it was, covered with a sheet. Boxes were stacked on top of it. He pulled the sheet away. The wood was scratched. One arm had been damaged. He slowly ran my fingers across it. That chair wasn't furniture. It was the last thing my husband had ever built. Then he heard Vanessa behind me. Oh, that old chair. He turned. Why is it here? It doesn't fit the living room. It belonged to Robert. She sighed. He know. Then she walked away. He stood there alone. And that was the first time he felt it. Fear. Not anger. Fear. Because suddenly he understood. This wasn't about furniture. It wasn't about paint. It wasn't even about decorating. They were slowly erasing me from my own home. A month later, Vanessa painted the kitchen. The warm honey yellow walls became white. He stood there staring. Why did you change the color? She shrugged. Yellow looked childish. She had no idea that Robert and he had chosen the color together. She didn't know why it mattered. Or maybe she simply didn't care. Then the photographs started disappearing. One by one, Daniela's a baby. Daniel on his first day of school. Robert holding him. Our wedding photograph. He eventually found all of them inside a cardboard box. He opened it. My entire life was sitting inside, packed away, forgotten. He carried the box upstairs. That night, he cried, not because of the photographs, because nobody had asked me. Nobody had even considered that they should. And that's when he understood what Vanessa was really doing. She wasn't changing the house. She was changing my place inside it. Then came Daniel's birthday, his 35th birthday. Vanessa invited 20 people. The house was filled with music. Food covered the dining table. Everyone was laughing, and he spent the entire afternoon helping prepare the party. He arranged glasses, folded napkins, checked the food. He wanted my son to have a beautiful birthday. At around 7, he walked into the dining room carrying a tray. Vanessa looked at me. Her smile disappeared. Margaret, yes? She glanced at the guests, then back at me. You weren't invited. He thought he'd misheard her. What? You heard me. The room became completely silent. He looked at Daniel. He was holding a glass. His eyes dropped to the floor. Daniel? Nothing. Vanessa continued. This is Daniel's special night. He looked around the room. At the expensive food. At the beautiful table. At the chandelier. At the empty spaces where our family photographs used to hang. Then she said the words that broke something inside me. You can eat upstairs. He felt my face burn. He placed the tray down. Of course. And he walked away. No screaming. No argument. No tears. He went upstairs, closed my bedroom door, and sat on the edge of my bed. For several minutes, he listened to the laughter downstairs. My own son was celebrating his birthday in my house, at my table, while he was hiding upstairs because his wife had decided he wasn't welcome. That night, he didn't sleep. At 6 the next morning, he made coffee. At 7, he opened my desk drawer. At 8, he called a lawyer. Her name was Diane Coleman. She listened to everything. Then she asked me one question. Whose name is on the deed? Mine. Anyone else's? No. Mortgage? Paid off years ago. Diane looked at me. Then why are you allowing them to make decisions about your property? He couldn't answer. She leaned back. Margaret, you don't need permission to set boundaries in your own home. Those words stayed with me. He had spent years protecting everyone else's feelings. But who had been protecting Mine? Diane reviewed the property documents. Everything was clear. The house belonged to me. Not Daniel. Not Vanessa. Me. Then he asked the question he had been afraid to ask. What happens if they refuse to leave? She answered calmly. Then we follow the legal process. He nodded. He wasn't looking for revenge. He just wanted my home back. At least. That's what he told myself. Because Vanessa wasn't finished. The following Thursday, he was at the community center when my phone rang. It was my neighbor, Caro. Margaret, don't panic. My stomach dropped. What happened? There are the people at your house. What people? A man in a suit. What is he doing? He's taking pictures. He grabbed my keys. When he arrived, a silver Tuve was parked in my driveway. A man stood on the porch with a camera. Vanessa was standing beside him, smiling. He stepped out of my car. Who are you? The man turned. You Miss Holt? Yes. He looked uncomfortable. He was told this property was being prepared for Sale. My blood went cold. He turned toward Vanessa. You risk selling my house. She shrugged. We're getting an appraisal. Who gave you permission? She smiled. Daniel agreed. He reached into my purse and pulled out the deed. My name is on it. The man's face changed immediately. He looked at Vanessa, then at me. He apologized and me raised. Halt. He packed his camera and left. Vanessa waited until his car disappeared. Then she looked at me. You're being selfish. He stared at her. Selfish? This house is too big for you. He almost laughed. It was too big when you moved in. She didn't answer. They've been living here for 3 years. And now you want to sell it. She stepped closer. Daniel and he have a future. He looked directly into her eyes. So do I. She laughed. What future? He didn't answer. Because at that moment, he knew exactly what he was going to do. And for the first time, he wasn't afraid. 20 minutes later, Daniel came home. Vanessa immediately started talking. She attacked me. Daniel looked confused. What happened? He looked at my son. Your wife tried to sell my house. He turned toward Vanessa. That true. We were only exploring our options. He stared at him. Did you know? Daniel said nothing, and that silence told me everything. He went upstairs. Then he returned with 2 envelopes. He placed them on the table. Daniel looked at them. What are those? Your notices. Vanessa laughed. You were joking. No, you can't throw us out. You own the house. Daniel looked at me. Mom. He raised my hand. No, Daniel. My voice was calm. Had 3 years. Vanessa slammed her hand on the table. After everything we've done it for you? He stared at her. Done it for me? You would be alone without us. He looked directly into her eyes. He was alone before you came. Then he paused. And somehow, he was happier. The room went completely silent. Vanessa's face turned red. You ele regret this? Maybe he would. Maybe he wouldn't. But for the first time in 3 years, he wasn't afraid of what she thought. They had 30 days. 30 days to leave the house they had slowly tried to make their own. The next few weeks were uncomfortable. Vanessa stopped speaking to me. Daniel barely came downstairs, and Oliver didn't understand why everyone was packing boxes. That was the hardest part. One afternoon, Oliver came into my room holding his toy truck. Grandma, are we moving? He knelt beside him. Yes, sweetheart. Where? He looked at his innocent face. Your daddy will find a new home.